Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Orphan, starring Vera Famiga, Peter Sarsgaard, C.C.H. Pounder, and Isabella Furman, directed by Jean-Claude Serra. Now, before I get into this review, I must say I apologize for this title because that is the name of this movie. So, if anybody sees this review and says, that is such an inappropriate title, it's the title of this movie. Kind of like Jackass, for example. That movie's called Jackass, or the TV show for that matter, or Kick Ass. That's another one that's been a little inappropriate, but yeah, I apologize in advance. It's not my titles, it's the movie's titles. So please forgive me for that. So, I remember going to theaters back in the day to see it. And what did I think? Well, it's about to be the same as what I'm about to think now. Let's get into this movie and you'll see what I mean. We open with Kate, played by Vera Famiga, who is about to give a birth to a baby named Jessica, while John, played by Peter Sarsgaard, comes in the room with her as Kate is giving birth to a dead body, as it was a fake out of a dream sequence, although the baby wasn't born, to be fair. Well, I mean, was dead before it ever came out of her womb, which always annoys the shit out of me, as she wakes up and goes to the psychiatrist, as she and John are going to adopt in a few days in the weekend, while having two kids of their own. One is a young deaf girl named Max, while the older son is named Daniel, and this one talks, by the way, as they are a happy family until the weekend comes. And the problem I'm having is these characters are not as relatable as, say, the first Conjuring film, which I reviewed before and remembered enjoying, as this was before The Conjuring. And this isn't as scary, and unfortunately, it tries hard, but it doesn't work. I did, however, enjoy Max as a character, despite she's not as relatable as I wished for her to be. While Kate is excited to adopt, she's nervous, and when Vera Farmiga says that line, I don't know if I buy it because the way she says it, and it doesn't sound too excited in a happy way. While John wants another kid after baby Jessica, let's call her, and they go to an orphanage ran by Sister Abigail, played by C.C.H. Pounder, as John needs to use the restroom and hears a little Russian girl singing named Esther, played by Isabella Furman, as she can paint, and she's different in odd ways, according to Sister Abigail, as she doesn't tell them until later in the film. And there's nothing wrong with being different, but this one's different in the most suspicious way. I was different in a way people wouldn't make fun of me, as I was an outcast when I was in high school, but to be discussed another time. Kate and John adopt Esther, and while on the way home, Esther learns sign language in order to meet Max, and she also meets Daniel and Grandma Barbara as they welcome Esther home, and Daniel doesn't seem to care, while playing Guitar Hero with his friends and go to his treehouse to look at porn magazines, as we learn Kate was an alcoholic, and she had no choice but to either quit or get fired from teaching, I don't know what it was, from Yale, which is a university. And this is some psychodrama shit going on here, while Daniel acts like a prick to his adopted sister, which feels wrong on so many levels, I must say. At night, Esther and Max join Kate and John because of being afraid of the lightning, and Esther's first day at school was some bully picking on her while the girls were playing on the ice, which is pretty fucking dangerous, while Daniel shoots a paintball at a defenseless bird, and Esther kills the bird, which was a very fucking stupid scene because Daniel shouldn't have shot the damn bird in the first place, and now she has to kill the fucking bird to knock it out of its fucking misery. And nighttime, but maybe not in front of the kids, I'll say. Nighttime comes when Esther is in the bathtub and Kate looks at a Bible Esther has, and I thought, what the fuck were you doing to begin with? In her bedroom, I'll say. The bully picks on Esther and drops her Bible and calls her a dog, and she screams, and what the fuck was that all about? The scene was painful to watch, and there's times the movie is absolutely freaking painful to watch. Esther asks Kate about baby Jessica as Max talks about her, and Kate shows her the casket of baby Jessica, which is sad, sure, While at night time, Esther spies on Kate and John having sexual intercourse, and the next day she says to Kate, they fuck. And the fact that she said fuck in front of Kate, and the next thing you know, Kate and John cuss each other out, did come off a little rather preposterous. Well, I just didn't give a shit. And I'm going to say this movie is 30 minutes too long. And some of these scenes could be cut out. While on the playground, Esther spies on John as their neighbor flirts with him, which was funny in a bad way, I'll say. And the bully looks for Esther and wonders where she went, and at her, I'll say to begin with, as Esther pushes the bully off the slide and breaks her leg, or ankle. Yeah, it was an ankle, that's right. And the only person who saw the whole thing was Max, and they hang around each other quite a bit, and she says she slipped at dinner time. And at dinner time, Daniel mouths off about Esther at the dinner table as Sister Abigail calls Kate, and Esther doesn't want to talk with her. Esther doesn't. And she can play the piano and Kate and John have an argument as Esther overhears as the actress Isabel Furman can pull off evil, but I hope it works better with the prequel than here in this movie. Yes, I'm leading up to the prequel, as I get pissed off later in the movie, and I'll explain why, but that made me have a violent reaction to really dislike the movie. But I'll explain why later in the show. Sister Abigail comes by the house and tells Kate and John that adopting Esther was a mistake, as she explains every terrible thing that happens, as she's there to see it. Meanwhile, Esther wants to kill Sister Abigail by pushing Max to the road, endangering her, while Sister Abigail gets into a crash and Esther kills her and moves the body off the road. And this movie is really pissing me off, as the kids aren't talking about what Esther is doing as she pulls off the murders, which is so unfortunate as well as inappropriate and stupid for a 9-year-old girl. And she puts the evidence in the treehouse while Daniel sees they were in there and wonders why. And I'm starting to dislike this movie at this point, but it's not violent. Yeah, I'll get there. Esther pulls a knife on Daniel and he pisses his own pants. And the next scene, you know, Kate and John visit the psychiatrist while Esther is, as she doesn't, and she believes Esther more than Kate. There's nothing wrong with Esther, while she's beating up on the bathroom stall, which is a bullshit call from the psychiatrist, as she's terrible at her fucking job. Absolutely fucking terrible. The cops find Sister Abigail's body while we see Esther's drawing of the house on flames as well as dead bodies, while Kate looks up a definition of a word that means a manipulator. And that's what she's been doing this entire film, Esther, I mean. And Kate is figuring out and nobody can, which has got to be some of the dumbest characters in this whole fucking movie. Kate asks Max and Daniel if Esther has hurt them and versus threatened them, and they lie about it. And I'm starting to get really upset at this movie. Esther cuts the roses from baby Jessica's casket area just to make her bruise Esther so she can have John on her own, and the bruise gets worse after she purposely strangles it on her own and calls John and takes Esther to the hospital, and she wants to sleep with him tonight and throws Kate on the couch, and she grabs some wine and breaks the non-alcoholic thing, as this is poorly planned by Esther. While Kate drops off Daniel and Esther at school, and Max was in the car, and Esther purposely puts the car in reverse and is putting Kate in a difficult position. And this is the point I'm blaming Esther, and I want to turn this movie off, as Daniel wants to know about Esther's crimes, and he goes to the treehouse as Esther overhears, and this movie is taking a long time to get to the fucking point. Esther torments Kate as Kate knows there's something very wrong with Esther, and Kate, Max, and Daniel were smart enough to figure it out a little earlier, but John is still the stupid one for believing in a goddamn word Esther says. especially till his death, spoiler alert, but I'll get there. Kate calls a mental hospital about Esther without realizing it was a mental hospital, while Esther gets the evidence and burns it as well as the treehouse, and tries to kill Daniel by letting him suffocate as he's taken to the hospital. I'm starting to get annoyed with this movie, and I still have 30 more fucking minutes to go. While at the hospital, Kate talks with John about Esther, who has to go while Max tries to get Esther, and Esther suffocates Daniel to death with a pillow, and there's a brief pulse while Kate smacks Esther, and the hospital workers were stupid enough to knock Kate out, and John takes Esther home as she has to stay overnight, and Daniel is going to be fine, as they say, and John takes Max and Esther home, and as they're about to go to sleep, Esther takes Max's hearing aids, while John gets a glass of wine and drinks some wine, I'll say, and falls asleep, and Esther starts to dress up like someone attractive and flirts with him, and I'm thinking, oh my god, this is really fucking inappropriate for a girl at the age of 9 years old acting like that, especially to her own stepfather. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here at this point? Kate gets a call from a doctor at the mental hospital, as this is really going to piss me off explaining this. She's a full-grown woman at the age of 33 years old. I shit you not. 33 years old. And she's done shit like this 1 year before. Hopefully that's where the new movie is going to go. And she fools every single motherfucker thinking she's a little 9-year-old girl. As John discovers Esther's plan, and I thought about motherfucking time. God, that character annoyed the shit out of me, as this is very poor fucking storytelling. As Esther turns off the electricity and Kate drives and almost gets killed at one point, and I thought, don't look at your fucking phone, lady, while driving, and she calls the cops, and this climax is a bunch of bullshit so far, as Esther kills John and Kate tries to call his cell phone, and she crashes into the house as Esther grabs the gun to kill Kate off, as this movie has so many problems at this point. Esther searches for Kate while Max hides in baby Jessica's room and hides from Esther, and Esther shoots at Max, but luckily doesn't kill her, thank God. Phew. And Kate breaks the glass to knock out Esther briefly, and Kate and Max get out of the house, and as the cops arrive, Esther is still going after them, only to land in the ice water to have a fight there. And Max shoots at the ice, and they go in the water a couple of times, and Kate finally knocks Esther's ass out into the water, saying, "I'm not your fucking mommy." And the movie ends like that, and this climax is such stupid bullshit. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 1.7 out of 10. There were times the movie annoyed me with how bad it was, as this was a very bad movie with some stupid characters that I just didn't give a shit about, as they're very unlikable characters. The story is very weak, and this climax completely pissed me off, as this is an incredibly stupid and inappropriate movie with a very dumb plot twist at the end of the day. There were times I was shouting at the movie as I wanted to get to the point, and this movie is 30 minutes too fucking long. And the more it went on, the worse it got. These are not relatable characters, but Max, it was sort of relatable, but not really. And this is pretty much a strong non-recommendation, as I'm not looking forward to what the new prequel film has to offer, but I'm going in with an open mind. Please be better than this pile of shit. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Orphan First Kill. And until then, goodbye, Orphan.